Welcome back, my beautiful, beautiful students, to this extra credit of Weebology podcast. I am your late Professor Ricky. This is real deep into a Wednesday night. Ethan, I 100% apologize. Work today has been kind of insane. Code being slung left and right, and it has been a very, very stressful day. You know, it's not necessarily void level of stressful, but you know, I've been brought into the light by Tower of God, episode 6. Every time. Woo! And we get a lot of extra information here, but again, they turn up the subtlety, and I know that's kind of an oxymoron, but they really make a good case for storytelling in this particular episode. Was it my favorite of the 6 I've seen so far? No, for a very specific reason. The first reason, actually, where we start at the beginning of this episode, is Rachel has come to Bomb's room while he's in a comatose state, and he tells Kun something I didn't exactly want to hear. Oh. How do you tell him he's not, or she's not Rachel? It's clearly Rachel, as I've been saying for like episodes and episodes. She tells him that I don't want Bomb to know who I am. Please lie for me. That I am not Rachel. I'm not that person. This pissed me off. This pissed me off because Bomb has almost exclusively fought just to find Rachel again. And now that he finally has, she's like, no, screw you. We can't know each other in this tower. So it brought up a lot of questions for me. That particular scene, that first scene, is the climb of the tower, or rather what's at the top, so important to Rachel that she is unwilling to let Bomb know that, yes, I am me? Turns out it doesn't exactly work, because Bomb is not dumb. Like, he's been led on to be, while maybe weak within the context of the battle aspect of the tower, he's a pretty savvy dude. And it's not really a savvy move to know that, hey, that girl is Rachel. Oh, she told me she wasn't? No, that's Rachel. So he brings up a lot of internal questions that I too had. Like, is it really, he even says, do you really want to see the stars that bad? That translates to me, do you really want the reward at the top of this tower so bad you aren't willing to be cohorts with me? You aren't even willing to acknowledge that we know each other. But that also leads me to another question. She specifically seems to be doing this after the episode we learn that the rule states that you can't be acquaintances in the same tower, as in you can't know each other before. Is she savvy to this rule and then is playing along accordingly? What does she know? What does she know? I said that about the other team, about why they're protecting Bond and all that, and what's their angle, but my gaze has been focused on Rachel. What does she know? She specifically seems to be playing along with the rules of the tower, and you wouldn't be able to do so in a very specific way without knowing the rules of the tower. So I think she's going to have a very interesting turn later in the season. We're going to find out some stuff about her that I think is going to be pretty savvy. So, Bum wakes up after Rack actually being this 100% tsundere. What are you doing, Rack? Such a good little boy. He's a tsundere for days. A tsundere, if you will, because he is intently looking in on Bomb's room, hoping he wakes up, and he even says the line, "It's not like I'm worried about the black turtle or anything, baka." You know, he didn't actually say that last part, but he had that energy. It's 100% that energy. So he wakes up. He's freaking out. how long have I been out? Am I still good to climb this tower? And Kun tells him, yeah, man, you're cool. You're cool. Because here's how it's going to go down from here on out. Kun and Rak went to a meeting while Bomb was incapacitated in a comatose state, and they find out about the rest of the tower climb. And they were told by none other than our boy Leo Rio that you climb in 5-man teams from here on out. And you have to be tested to make it into one of these 5 categories. And essentially, as this episode's title suggests, position selection, this episode we find out about what the rest of the tower climb seems to look like. And there are 5 positions on this team, and you take a test that's specific to a position to see if you qualify, to fulfill that position, as Leo Rio put it. And the positions break down as thus. The top one is Fisherman. This is your berserker, your tank, your frontline melee fighter. And we heard Fisherman earlier in this episode because none other than Yuri Jihad, the princess who gave the Black March to Bomb, was considered Ooh, interesting. So they are chosen. The genius fisherman. And was chosen by the king of the tower. Let it be known that these princesses of Jihad are chosen. They are not born. They are not made. They are chosen. And we find out more specifically a criteria of why they would be chosen later, but we'll get to that in a second. The next position is spear bearer, someone who's kind of a long-range fighter. And you know our boy Rak's going after that position because, you know, he's got that spear game down. He was even practicing in the cafeteria just his spear throwing. The next one is the light bearer. This is like your reconnaissance member of the team. This member basically goes out and uses information gathering to come back to the team. They're almost as if they're a scout. If there wasn't already a position on the team called scout. Okay, so scout, as it were, is supposed to be the assistant to the fisherman. They're the eyes and ears. They're the frontline reconnaissance. Whereas Lightbearer might be going out and gathering information, who's on what team, what kind of powers do they have, what's their strength level, what do they got? The scout seems to be paired with the fisherman on the front lines to go do the eyes and ear work, the reconnaissance in the midst of battle. And then the last position, funny enough, is called Wave Controller. Now, those of you who have been sticking around for extra credit, one, I applaud you. You are the studious of students. But the Wave Controller has been mentioned numerous times in the last couple of episodes. We have Beefy Boi Supreme, who was called a Wave Controller by another contestant for his ability to use and control Shinzu. Now, in the context of this team, they're like the director. They are the general. They're the ones that are given the privilege to use Shinzu, and they're also the ones to do the planning or the battle strategies. I don't know. It almost seems like they'll probably work very closely with their light bearer. They'll work closely maybe with their scout if they get a chance to do so on the battlefield. But the Wave Controller is the one with the Shinzu game. That's the member of the team that has the privilege of working with Shinzu. So it seems as if the teams we know them now are splitting up soon. Because if these individuals are applying for these positions on these teams, that means that they're not going to be sticking necessarily with the team they got to this point with. But you know, this is a shonen. They're gonna have Turtle Team teaming up. I mean, they kind of alluded to it because we get to see some of the tests in this. But before we get to that, I want to remind everybody of Bomb's position here. Because if you remember, in the last episode, there was a bet. There was a bet made by Anak. Anak. I think I've been saying that wrong the whole time. Anaak. on Knock, on Nake. I don't know. You know, Fishy Girl. I'm going to go with Fishy Girl. So Fishy Girl and Bomb make a bet saying that if Bomb can keep the crown and win the bonus challenge, he gets both the Black March and the Green April. But if he cannot meet those win conditions, she gets both weapons. And if you remember last time, the crown game ended with no winner. So, here we are. You bitch. Rules are rules, though. Yeah, you did accept your bet. Her in possession of the Black March, because technically Bomb didn't win the bet, and Bomb lost, so he had to give up his Black March weapon, which I actually really like that because it was the weapon that got him far-ish, but we've been alluding to facts and little events up to this point that kind of make me conclude that Bomb has a strength all of his own that doesn't require the Black March at all. I mean, the Black March didn't necessarily allow him to push through the Shinzu wall in that first test in the lobby after the Battle Royale. He, didn't need it to use that crazy Shinzu move. So it's clear that Bomb has some kind of special ability, and others have called him a monster in this tower. So I like the idea that he is stripped of that early advantage, because now it's on him to make it work with just himself, which leads us to the tests. We'll get to Bomb's testing in a bit, but we'll start with the scout, because we're presented with Shibizu and Hots coming to Bomb's room, and they're saying that they want to be friends out of nowhere. These tests are interesting. I didn't in the moment know exactly what that meant, but it turns out the scout test is making friends. What a wholesome test. But I guess as an analytic, I want to think, what necessarily does this mean for the position of scout? Why is the ability to make friends, be social, network essentially on almost a business-esque level have to do with being a good scout and fulfilling that position? So I'm curious to see how that goes. But we see Rock also later in the Spear Bearer test, which, again, we all knew. Nice. Rock! Get it! My boy! We all knew. This man's out here. He's out here with the spear. The man's got to bear it. So the test for that is they have a target way in the distance. I mean, way in the distance. Essentially, it's a simple test for a simple lizard, just like Rock. You hit it, you pass. That's it. And surely enough, not just Rock passes, but some other dude also passes before him, which is he looks very kind of samurai-esque, samurai yokai kind of look to him. But I find him super interesting, that extra spear bearer, because the way that they shot that, it makes me think that it's possible that Rat could not end up on a team with Kun and Bomb. We do see a little glimpse of the wave controller test, though. It's kind of a two-stage thing. Bomb is in the same classroom, and instead of Leah Rio, it's this kind of rice ball monster demon-looking thing teaching their class, and they tell them to say visual mode, and it opens up that black ball that we've seen a couple of times. It's the thing that told everybody about how much time is left in the Battle Royale, how much time is left in the bonus game, and now it is telling them when they say the words that the instructor says to say, which is make contract with an administrator. And once that is said, ooh. What the fuck is that? Bomb instantly transports to this kind of dark black water nebulous dimension and is staring face to face with this megalodon, like almost sea dinosaur looking thing, 5 eyes on both sides of his head, super big. And again, you know, it's to Bomb's character that people just take a liking to him, and this creature is no exception. He takes a liking to him, even saying, "You smell appetizing." Not appetizing. Was it appealing? Appealing. But Bomb's looking like a snack to this guy. So he's saying, you know what? I will, in fact, allow you to have the ability to control Shinzu. But he says something very foreboding. Oh. What does that mean? This is not necessarily a contract for you. This is a shackle. Now, I wonder what these contracts with administrators mean now, because that one line makes me think this isn't a privilege. This isn't necessarily a privilege for you. It's almost a hindrance in some kind of way. There's some kind of negative to controlling Shinzu under the contract of an administrator. We do see later that Bomb very easily seems to control the Shinzu, which, in my opinion, is a very great character development after losing that OP weapon. Oh! So Bomb's going for Wave Controller. I'm really into that. Okay, cool. I mean, he managed to get into the tower at all thanks to Yuri's help and the Black March, but now it's on him. It's totally on him. So we get to see a little glimpse of what is making Bomb so special, and Exhibit A is he seems to have this affinity for controlling Shinzu very easily, whereas the horned boy, Ho, H-O-H, I believe his name is, he is having a struggle. He's having a struggling time. He even struggled after making a contract. He made a tough act, as he was talking to Bomb in the classroom, but he goes back to his own room and nearly collapses from exhaustion, which, I find it interesting that these guys are, out here making a real struggle to actually look tough. But potentially you could be, teammates. I guess not necessarily the wave controllers would be teammates with each other, but putting on a brave face makes a lot of sense in a tower climb competition, now that we know it's a team-based thing. We get a lot of information this episode too about the princesses of Jihad. We are introduced to the high heel girl, now has a name, Endorsi, and she, on all accounts, seems to be a real princess of Jihad, whereas Anak is still touted as an imposter. And she still gets pissed about being called an imposter. I'm curious. We learn in a scene where everyone's kind of fraternizing in the cafeteria, almost around Bomb, which is a really cool, moment. That these princesses are chosen for a very specific reason. That's a really good point. So they are recruited based on representing tribes and families. They're chosen to represent powerful families or tribes. So you aren't there as a princess on your own behalf. You're there on your family's. That's an interesting move. Very Mulan-esque, if you have to ask me. The episode kind of finally ends with what looks like the fisherman test, because in the imagery of the fisherman, he is using this kind of needle-like, almost fencing sword type weapon, very skinny and slender, and they're given a similar type weapon on these floating platforms that the instructor says you have a certain time limit to knock everyone off until there's only 8 left. Get to it. And you all saw this coming if you watch this episode. Ionk goes right after Endorsi, and they have this kind of back and forth about how Ionk is this imposter princess, blah, 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 blah. And we get a little glimpse as to why. Oh, she's an imposter because she is an orphan to the family she's representing. The imposter aspect might not necessarily be because she got in on false pretenses or she had some special privileges given by the king. No, it's her family lineage that is her impostership. Like we said, this princess title is illustrious, obviously, but it's also a representation of the family that you're there to kind of front. You know, you are the representation of the family you come from. So if you, in fact, are an orphan of said family, by a small logical leap, you would then inherently be an imposter. But why? Why the impostership? Was there someone else in that family that was supposed to be there? Does Endorsi allude to the family that Ayant came from? Was there someone else supposed to take her place? We see some end credit scenes of what looks like Ayant and her mother, who are spitting images of each other, so I'm not exactly sure where the hell they get off saying imposter, but here we are. The episode ends with them ready to fucking clash. Like, they're ready to go. So you know next episode's gonna get hype. But this episode, it kind of was like a middle ground for me, you know? I really didn't like the way they handled Rachel. I wanted her to at least give Bomb some sort of solace. You know, he just lost the Black March. He was comatose for 5 days. He now has to basically jump into a wave controlling role. So any kind of solace that says, I can't associate with you, but just know I'm here. No, she went flat out, I'm not that person, you have to lie for me. And Kun in the cafeteria with him even kind of suggests that she is in fact Rachel. Why do you think that she wouldn't want to be with you right now? And he tells him to get stronger. So Kun's, while I like Rack as the best character, Kun's kind of stacking up to be best boy. He's kind of being our OG, the Sam to Bomb's Frodo. So, you know, I'm really curious to see where they go from here. The addition of these positions is a really cool, very shonen addition. I like the idea that it's possible that these teams could mix up, and there's gonna have to be a moment where they all have to learn to sync with each other if all 5 of them want to rise through the tower. And I'm curious this whole princess thing. They've kind of started to drop a lot more details about what does it take to be a princess? What are the prerequisites? What does it mean to be an imposter according to this Endorsi chick? Yeah, I guess final marks, some cool scenes. Ayonk actually used in the fisherman test some Shinzu enhancement, very Hunter x Hunter. I like that. Using Shinzu to amp your physical abilities. That's, you know, classic shonen stuff. But the way they animated it was very good. Not too much Sakuga in this episode, but it definitely had its moments. I can't get over the fact that Rack went full Tsundere. We all knew it. All the fans knew it. We knew he was this Tsundere lizard boy, you know, Tsunda lizard, but he kind of really laid it out there with that whole line about, it's not like I was actually carrying or anything, baka. This one definitely seems like an informational jumping off point. This is an exposition episode. You know, they kind of hit it behind test, hit it behind fights here and there. But I'm liking the direction it's going still. This is a really interesting concept. They are dropping new mechanics here and there, but they never feel like they're over done or they're kind of shoehorned in, I guess is a good way to put it. They never really feel like they shouldn't be there, and yet they're putting them there. Everything feels natural, and I really, really like that. So if I had to rate this one, I'm gonna give this one a flat 80. Same as kind of the OG. I mean, it was good. It had a good exposition. It wasn't as good as the others in the past. Maybe I'm a battle nut. Who cares? But they definitely are using this episode to get us to be aware of what they're setting up. They're setting up some really cool things. So I'm excited for the rest of the series. But thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen with your eyes and not ears, check us out on YouTube. Hey, YouTube gang, what's good? Thank you for coming back. I know you've been seeing some, get fucked. Get fucked. Reactions of me with the video down here, and we really like this format of, you know, watching it and then immediately reacting and then talking about it right after. It makes for a nice, you know, back and forth. So I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I enjoy creating it. So if you want to listen with just your ears, just that audio content, go to Spotify, Apple, Google, Castbox, Stitcher, or anywhere else you get your podcast fix. If you want to check us out on Instagram at weebology.podcast, we got memes on news. They have been obviously pandemic heavy because that is kind of what everyone's talking about right now. And I'll tell you what, there is some serious anime COVID memes on the internet. So we are just going to bleed that dry and feed them right to y'all students. So if you want to check us out on Twitter at weebologyp, Ethan wants to change that name, but I don't because I really like it. And if you want to drop us a line, something we should be watching for the main podcast, or when this inevitably ends, the extra credit, what should we watch next? Hit us up on weebologypodcast@gmail.com. We will try to add you to the stack, and we will be watching, hopefully, everything everyone suggests. It may take a while, but we will certainly get there. But until we do, I'm Ricky, that was Ethan, and this has been Weebology. Deuces!